Howdy y'all, Caleb here. Today we're looking at a new possible ally for SERAPHON, and that is the Kraken Eater Mega Gargant. This is a pretty impressive looking model that just came out. It also requires a pretty hefty investment on your part if you want one of these guys, but they are pretty cool looking and lots of kit bashing possibilities here. That's what I see when I see this guy. Is like I want to put a bunch of SERAPHON stuff on him and ally him into my army. So he is available. They have one available to each army that can be a mercenary in your army. So with the mercenary, you do lose your first command point. So take that into consideration. Our army is very command point hungry. So just plan for that if you do bring him in there, that you may not have one of them. We have plenty of opportunities to get more, so that's usually not a problem. So that's actually 1 point in his favor for SERAPHON, taking him as a mercenary. But we're gonna look at what kind of damage he can expect and what's his utility. Does he fit in our army as a good ally, and is he better than some of our other options? So the Mega Gargant. This guy is beefy. He's on a pretty big base, and he comes with 35 wounds on a 4-up save. Now, as SERAPHON, we actually have another character that has another monster that has 35 wounds on a 4-up save. That's right, the Dread Saurian. So we may compare some of him to the Dread Saurian and maybe something else as we look at this. But 35 wounds is a lot to go through on a 4-up save here, this Mega Gargant, and so it does provide quite a lot to handle for the enemy. Let's look at his movement first. His movement is 11, which is actually pretty good for something so big. He does have some special abilities, which we'll look at here in a minute, that allow him to walk over models that have certain wound characteristics and terrain features, things like that. So he does have some mobility there, along with that 11-inch move. He's a big base, so you do have to take that into consideration. That helps a little bit. But his weapon profiles, we've got it looks like about 14 attacks here from this guy. And different things that happen. They're all multi-damage. Some are pretty random, so you can't really count on that for damage. But he does have a hurl debris, so he's throwing stuff at the enemy. It has a 24-inch range, 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -1 rend, D3 damage. So that stat line, you kind of wish it was a little bit better. You kind of look at that and think of the Stegodon shooting and wish it was 3s and 3s. Because that 4 to hit, you're not going to be hitting many characters with this. Because if they've got Lookout Sir, you're going up to a 5. It just doesn't become very good. But it will plink out some damage. You might sneak 1 or 2 through with this, and if you roll good enough, maybe it can do some legitimate damage. The Almighty Stomp. It's got 2 attacks, 3s, -2 rend, D3 damage. It's okay. It's nothing really to write home about. These low quantity attacks. They just have a chance to miss a lot, and so same with Death Grip. 1 attack, 3s and 2s, -3 rend, D6 damage. So it can hit hard, but it's got that random damage, and so you might get 3 or 4 through, but right when you need it, you'll roll a 1 on the damage. Shipwrecker War Club. This one has 8 attacks, so that's a lot better. 3s and 3s, -2 rend, 2 damage. And so you get a little more consistent damage here, better stat line, and a flat 2 damage. I'll take a flat 2 over D3 any day. And if we look at his damage table there, that as he takes damage, he does bracket. It is, a monster here, but it doesn't bracket too hard. As I'm looking at this, that club, it starts at 8. It goes down to 7 until he's taken 25 wounds, and then it's down to 6. That's not a bad bracket. I kind of like that. It's gonna you got to do 12 wounds to him before he even gets that first bracket, and then even if he's almost dead, he's only lost 3 attacks on that thing, so it's not too bad. I'm fine with this bracket here. I think this isn't too bad. He doesn't go down in damage a whole lot. A lot of times when I'm looking at Carnosaurs, as soon as they start taking some of that chip damage, their efficiency goes down quite a bit. So it's not bad. Overall, though, his damage isn't all that impressive. When we're looking at just his damage profile, he's only going to sneak out about 12 damage versus a 4-up save, which this model here is 490 points as a mercenary. He'll take up your entire ally allotment. But 12 damage, I just don't feel like that's enough. That's just not very much. Not really worth the points yet. But let's look at what his abilities do. So he does have a couple abilities over on this left side here, which talk to, you know, he gets some reroll hits here, depending on if it's a monster or not. All the calculations I'm going to do are shown with rerolling all the hits, spend a command point or something, or if these things right here are going off. But one is for a monster, one's if it's not a monster. He does get some mortals on the charge, so on a 2-up, so this should go off most times. He'll do D3 mortals to monster, D6 if it's not. That's actually pretty good. D6 mortals to something is pretty nice. Over on this right side, he does have an ability that keeps him from being Hand of Dusted. You know, if a spell or ability would just straight up kill him, like Slayer of King, like the Slayer Sword or Hand of Dust, he'll just take D6 mortal wounds instead. So that really helps keep him from just being insta-deleted off the table. You also have an ability you can pick up to D3 models and stuff them in your pouch, or stuff them in his net this time, I guess. And so that helps when you're in combat. You can grab a couple models, but you have to roll at least double their wounds characteristics. So you're talking, you know, at max a 3 wound character. So you're going to be doing this to you're not going to do this to any heroes, any support heroes or anything. You're talking like battle line and stuff like that. But it is another avenue of damage. I think if you take the mortal wounds and that stuff them in the pouch or stuff them in the net, you know, you're probably going to add, you know, probably 4, 5, 6 total damage to this. So it helps it a little bit, bring up that damage capability. So it's not bad. It's helping him out a little bit. He does have a terror ability, which is subtract 1 to bravery. Unfortunately, this won't stack with any of our stuff because our stuff has terror on it as well. Like the Carnosaurs, they do terror. They have that same thing, and it does say any friendly units with this ability. So that bravery debuff isn't going to stack with us, unfortunately. And then one of the worst giant rules is back. It's not the worst giant rule, but one. It's when he dies, you pick a point, and you roll off, and whoever wins the roll off, they're going to do damage to everybody within certain range of that. So if you do take this as an ally and he dies, you might damage yourself. It's kind of fun, but you know, as your model, you wish you could control that. I think the biggest abilities here is this one here. Get off my land. In the hero phase, if you have any models with this ability within 1 inch of an objective that you control, you can pick one of these models and say it will kick the objective away. If you do so, you can move that objective up to 2d6 inches to a new position on the battlefield, more than 1 inch away from any models. So this is pretty cool because this allows you to move an objective. There's nothing else in the game that allows you to move an objective in the playing field. And so Seraphon's all about board control. And if you can move an objective to where it's in your zone where you can control it better, then that's pretty cool. I like this a lot, especially if you were to start this right on an objective that's right near your deployment zone. Let's say you start this guy right near it and you kick it over towards your Realm Shaper engine. You know, Realm Shaper engine has to be set up outside of 6 inches of an objective. Now you can kick it within an inch of your terrain feature, your Realm Shaper engine, and camp something in there, like some guard and croak, that can guard that objective. So it might be useful there. I think that ability right there would probably be the reason you would take this model. Longshanks, I think I hit on that before, where you can step over certain things. He's so tall, you can step over models that have less than 10 wounds, and terrain features that are 4 inches tall or less. And so that's kind of nice. It kind of gives him a flying, but not really. You do have to make sure you can't step over monsters and stuff like that. So some unique abilities there. Again, his damage isn't really that good. So he's doing 12 on his War Scrolls plus some mortals on the charge, and if you can snatch up some extra models there, you might be able to squeeze a little bit more out of this. But for 490 points, I kind of would have expected a little bit more damage than that. I think in the Mega Gargant army, there's a lot of different ways that you can buff him, and that's kind of one of the things that happens when you bring in a mercenary or an ally. You can't quite stack as many buffs onto him. So yeah, not quite as much damage as I was hoping. One of the abilities that he has in the main army, the Gargant army, is that he counts as up to 20 to 30 wounds or models when you're trying to cap an objective. If he did that in a Mercenary, then I think this would become a new favorite ally. But because he doesn't, he still only counts as one model when capturing an objective. He does have the ability to kick objectives around, which makes him more useful. But yeah, so comparing him to some other options at that point range. So he's doing about 12 damage on a 4-up save. That reminded me a lot of this bad boy, the Dread Saurian, who's 510 points, and also kind of disappointing on the damage. You know, he's only doing 13. That's about the same as that Mega Gargant. Dread Saurian's on a much bigger base. He can absorb a few more of our buffs, like pluses to save and pluses to charge and stuff like that. But you're not going to squeeze a whole lot more damage out of him, just based on his War Scroll, and he doesn't quite have the right keywords. So if you're looking at taking a Dread Saurian or the Mega Gargant, I think it's a pretty good comparison. The Dread can take a few more of our buffs, but the Mega Gargant can shove objectives around. And so the Dread Saurian is obviously a cooler model. I mean, it's a gigantic dinosaur. But if you can kit bash this Mega Gargant with some cool Seraphon stuff, maybe it'd turn out pretty sweet. But then we compare it to the other ally that's available to us, the other amazing ally, and that's this guy here, Gotrek himself. And looking at his damage, it's really no comparison. He does get to attack twice, and he'll do 33 damage versus a 4-up save. He'll easily delete anything in the game, pretty much. He does a lot of mortals. He has rerolls all over the place. He gets to attack twice, so you have some shenanigans there that you can do. He's on a smaller base. Now, he doesn't move as fast. He's only a 5-inch move, so you'll be running him usually turn 1. But to be honest, these guys, you're going to end up running turn 1 too, because 11-inch move isn't going to clear him across the board or anything. So these guys do have more range. He can walk over things, but the damage comparison is just no question in Gotrek's favor. So I think if you're wanting some utility, you might go with the Mega Gargant, because you can kick objectives around, which can be kind of fun. If you're looking to kit bash something cool, Mega Gargant could be what you're looking for. If you're looking just like for a centerpiece model, you might still be going with the Dread Saurian. That thing is huge and is pretty awesome looking. If you're looking for the most competitive option, you're probably going with Gotrek. He's probably our most competitive ally choice. Just the damage that he outputs is amazing. And you might think, well, the Mega Gargant's more survivable. The Dread Saurian's more survivable. Dread Saurian has the same save as the Mega Gargant and the same wounds, but the Dread Saurian can be auto-killed. Dread Saurian, on the other hand, gets the -1 damage if you're running him in Coalesced. And so I think he's about as survivable as the Mega Gargant once you kind of figure all that out. But Gotrek, against vanilla saves, like no rend, 1 damage, Gotrek is actually a little easier to kill than the Mega Gargant. But against anything else other than that, if you've got a lot of rend or you've got multi-damage, Gotrek will pretty much win that every time. And the last, I think, thing we can look at it for the comparison is that price point. So Mega Gargant is cheaper than Dread Saurian, and he's not Forge World, so you don't have to worry about that resin that's just absolutely terrible that doesn't fit together. You'll have to buy a base for Dread Saurian. So if you're looking at that price range, the Mega Gargant might be a better option. Gotrek, of course, is only $35. These are American prices, obviously, but $35, and he punches way above his price range, and his damage output is pretty amazing. So I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be buying. No, I know I'm not going to be buying a Mega Gargant right now. If I'm going to throw in a 500-point ally, it's going to be Gotrek. So what do y'all think? Anybody planning on running a Mega Gargant in their list? And are you going to kit bash it with some stuff? Put like a Bastildon shell on his back or something. That would be pretty sweet. All right, let me know. Let me know if any of y'all are running a Mega Gargant and what you're doing with it. See you guys.